Okay, so ladies, great to have you both with me today. Jennifer, Angie. So Angie, can I call you Pumps? And could you tell my listeners why they call you Pumps?
Michael, you can call me anything you want.
That's my
And they call me Pumps because Jennifer's husband, who I've known longer than I've known her, was Angelina Pumpkin Tina, then Tina full of pumps, and then Pumps just stuck.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I wish it was some crazy sex-driven story, but it's really
I'm
boring.
kind of a little disappointed, but that's all right.
It is. It is.
Yeah, All right. So let me ask you this question. Why did you two start your podcast, I've Had It? All right. I mean, to begin with, were you fed up with something in particular? Give my listeners a nice little background story on how I've Had It came to fruition.
Okay, so we were on in 2016 through 2019 a Bravo series called Sweet Home Oklahoma. And then we did 2 seasons and then it was not renewed. And we were fine with that. We lived our lives and our teenage children were like, hey, you guys still have all these people on Instagram that want you to do something. You're on the phone nonstop bitching about everything. Why don't you start a podcast? So we kind of floated the idea for like a year, but never organized enough to do it. And then we did it. And it's like, we never imagined that it would blow up the way it has because it's only been a podcast for 18 months.
Huh. And let me ask you this then, give my listeners a little flavor of I've Had It, what it's all about, how many followers you have now, because you get some incredible guests. Give us a little taste of what I've Had It is all about. I've been on the show, and I'll tell you,
Yes.
I had a great time with you two.
So I've Had It is about petty grievances in general. For example, couples that sit on the same side of the booth, gender reveal parties, people that walk down a sidewalk and then stop abruptly without any mindfulness that somebody could be walking behind them. The whole experience of TSA, people taking their socks and shoes off on airplanes. But also because we live in Oklahoma City, which is a deeply red state, and we are very progressive, we clearly have had it with a lot of conservative politics, particularly the MAGA movement. And so we have definitely ventured into those areas. We recently had the Vice President Kamala Harris on the podcast, which I would say would probably be the peak. So considering my and Angie's history of abject incompetence, we know that we will faceplant any moment. So we appreciate you having us on your podcast before our imminent faceplant.
Right.
Oh, I don't think you girls are face planting anything. Can we talk about a little bit about Kamala? I've had an opportunity to meet her. Unfortunately, not on a podcast situation where I was in control, but rather when I was testifying before one of the Senate committees that she was obviously sitting on. And that was also before she became vice president. And I thought she was actually terrific. She was incredibly warm, which I was shocked at. And she was very kind. Tell me how you guys found her. Because she gets, and talk about, I fucking had it. That's what my show would be. I fucking had it. And I'm with you. I'm with the two of you. I'm walking yesterday with my wife in the street. And there's a guy who's standing there right in the middle of the crosswalk on his cell phone, just looking down. It's the only way. So literally, you have to now fight with a pole that's to the left. And then you have to fight with people who are on your right because this fucking jerk off is standing right there in the middle. How about just keep walking? Look, I get it. There's a lot of things that I've, had it with also. Tell me what you found as it relates to Kamala, because she gets attacked an awful lot by people where, oh my God, could you imagine if Joe Biden dies and Kamala Harris takes over, the whole fucking country's ruined. And I say, why do you say that? What is it about her that you don't like? The fact that she's a woman?
Yeah.
That she's a woman of color? That she's smarter than you? That she was a former prosecutor? What is it about her that you don't like?
I think that she's threatening because she is a woman. She's a woman of color. And I also think that when you listen to her speak, she is thoughtful. She is well versed on every area. When we were sitting down interviewing her, as you know, I'm an avid consumer of you on all your podcasts, read the books, the whole nine. I could not get over the difference between cliche politics versus thoughtful policy affecting citizens. Like, it was such a contrast when we were sitting with her, because I just thought, we've got drill, 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 lock her up. That's policy on the right. And then the left, you have somebody that's very thoughtful, has an idea of policy, how it's going to affect the citizens. It's just, she is very impressive, and she's warm and she's funny. I really was impressed by her. And what we thought was so funny is she's pretty short in stature, but she commands a room like there is. I mean, you think she's 8 feet tall. I mean, she is warm, very magnetic, I thought.
Well, she does wear very high heel shoes all the time.
I was still taller than her.
So she could be 8 feet tall with the high heels. See, that I've had it. All right. I've had, my wife happens to be 5'9". And when we go out, let's say to a formal affair, she's always my equal height because she has those 110 millimeter shoes, right? Or centimeter shoes that makes her equal to me. I've had it. How come they don't make shit like that for men? All right. I'd be 6'4" then.
They do make it for men, and we call Ron DeSantis Governor Kitten Heels because he always is wearing a kitten heel. So we have affectionately named that faceplant of a governor, Governor Kitten Heels.
Yeah, but those are like 1 or 2 inch lifts. I'm not talking about that'll give you 4+ inches on your height. I mean, I don't get it, because that's another thing I've just had. But I'm with you on Kamala. I don't understand. She has what many people refer to as Hillary Clinton disease. She, for whatever the reason may be, people don't like her.
Right.
And I don't understand it. And I'm not saying people don't like her on just the Republican side. I hear that shit from Democrats too. And I said, have you ever met her? Have you ever spoken to her? I'm just trying to figure out, what is it about her that people don't like? I don't get it. And they're so fast to point a finger at her. Oh, her stepdaughter, is saying something negative about Israel, pro-Palestine, and so on. And I said, so? Everyone's entitled to an opinion. It may not be my opinion. I may not agree with it, but that's a reason to dislike Kamala? I mean, I just don't get it. I don't get it. I mean, do you like everything that comes out of Don Jr.'s mouth? Do you like everything that comes out of Eric's mouth? Or Ivanka? Or Jared? I mean, seriously, or Melania for that matter? But for whatever the reason may be, there's just this thing where people are insanely hard and rough on her. And I don't know the reason why. I figure you guys would probably be better situated to answer the question, in that you spend quite a bit of time with her one-on-one.
I think that it is an uphill battle for female politicians. I think that there is so much misogyny, both subconscious and conscious. And then in women, there is internalized misogyny, which I have, kind of had to deal with, having some of that as well as a Gen Xer. And then I think you throw in the skin color on it, and it is just, we are still trying to evolve as a civilization beyond that. But I mean, why was everybody so upset about Obama in a tan suit? Well, let me think about it. Oh, that's right, he's black. I think that sometimes the simplest answers are the correct ones. And with this situation, you've been around her in her presence. She is intelligent. She has a megawatt presence. She is a force of intellectual nature, beyond competent, would be an incredible commander in chief. And here's something that I think is so irritating right now. So we were Jesse Waters did a 9-minute expose on our interview with Kamala, and he had a 9-minute primetime meltdown. It was hysterical. So I went to his YouTube and I started reading the comments, and it's like, she slept her way to the top. She's a slut. She slept her way to the top. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me right now? Donald Trump has fucked so many people, and that doesn't bother you. Well,
Right.
what's the situation with the disparity? And it is that as a society, it's okay for men, to sleep with whomever they want to. But when a woman does it, which we don't know if that's true or not, who gives a shit?
Right.
If when and where the vice president, what her sex life is completely irrelevant to anything. But there's just this desire to say that she is not that intelligent because of who she is, but because a man must have had his way with her, and therefore she made it to the top, which is really gross and sad.
Yeah. Well, Jen, let me just put it to you this way. I'm going to drill down on those two points that you brought in. First of all, I'll take the easier of the two, which is her intelligence. This is another thing that scares white privilege.
Mhm.
And white privilege is not necessarily socioeconomic. Female, black, and smart. Use the same concept now with Barack Obama, okay? Black and smart. And people will be like, for example, Donald Trump used to turn around and say, I've never seen anybody go from whatever the name of the college, I forget, that Obama went to Harvard Law. It's never happened in the history of this country. Somehow or another, he managed to get in because of reverse discrimination or that quota or something like that. Barack Obama graduated number one in his class. Donald Trump didn't graduate, anywhere near the top, like he likes to tell you. In fact, in fact, he graduated towards the exact bottom of the class. No, it's true. It's true. He'll tell you that he was top of his class. No, he wasn't. All you need to do is go online, and those documents are actually printed. Who made, magna cum laude, right? And who made summa cum laude? He didn't even make cum laude, right? I mean, he legit. His sister turned around and said, if it wasn't for his father, number one, he never would have gone to University of Pennsylvania. All right, he went to Fordham, which is probably a school that he belonged in, not University of Pennsylvania, and that he would have been thrown out, but for the fact that he was the son of Fred Trump. So
Right.
you have a lot of this where if it's a black person and they're really smart, you got to figure out how to knock them down. And then
Yep.
on your point, about a woman versus a man's sexuality, just think about the labels that are associated to those actions. If a guy sleeps with a lot of women, he's what? He's a stud, right?
Stud, yeah.
If a woman sleeps with a lot of guys, she's a what? She's a slut,
Sure.
right?
Right.
Oh, exactly. Complete misogyny.
Yes.
You're right. I'm with you. It's gross, and I've had it.
Fucking had it.
Had it.
Because this
Gross.
woman, this vice president, is really a phenomenal person, and she is so accomplished, and we were in awe. But at the same time, she was relatable, personable. She is the whole entire package. And
Yeah.
I feel like we are so lucky.
Yes.
As a country, I, for one, am so grateful. I think we all have kids around the same age, that my kids can see this woman as the vice president and how impressive she is. And I have immense pride. But here's something that's so different about the right and the left. The right, they believe that you have to support every single thing about Donald Trump, everything.
Yep.
From, all of his lies, everything that he says, all of his wackadoodle bullshit. They 1,000,000%, every molecule of their DNA has to support him. If you're on the other side of the political spectrum, you have to vibe with the person in general. Like, generally speaking, I agree with around 70 to 90% of what this person says. we are not so intellectually challenged that we believe every single thing that the political party puts at us, because we are critical thinkers on the left. And so you might say, I really agree with the Democratic Party on these issues. On these other issues, I'm a little bit more conservative, or I'm even further to the left, and that's okay. And that's the difference between both parties right now. One's a cult, and the other one allows free thinking.
You see, I don't agree with the Biden administration 70% or 80%. In fact, I ascribe more to the what was his name? Why am I blanking? Ed Koch. The Ed Koch theory. If you agree with me 6 out of 12 times, you should vote for me. If you agree with me 12 out of 12 times, you should see a psychiatrist. You're not supposed
Exactly.
to. You're not
Right.
supposed to agree with everything. I have a different background, whether it's being male, whether it's being white, whether it's being Jewish, whether it's being a lawyer, whether it's being, a maniac, whatever it is, I have my way of thinking. Joe Biden is different he's not from New York, he's Delaware. I mean, we all have differences. I just agree with the fundamentals that he wants to bring to the office, that he has brought to the office. And there are things as I said before, that I agree with. There are things I disagree with. But the one thing that everybody should acknowledge, he's a decent man.
Right.
He's a
Yes.
good human being. He shows empathy. The president of the United States is not supposed to be the be-all, end-all problem solver. You see, that's where Trump is making a shit ton of mistakes. He thinks that this is the Trump organization, that he is the end-all, be-all decision maker for everything, and that he can do everything on his own. The fact of the matter is he didn't do everything on his own in his own company, and he certainly cannot do it as president of the United States. The system is not set up for it. The system doesn't want it, right? Because a person who makes all the final decisions, makes all the decisions, is not a president. It's a king. It's a monarch. It's a Führer. It's a supreme leader. It's it's not a president. And that's where he's fucking up. And the fact that Republicans allow him to do it, that's why he's fucked up their whole party.
Yeah.
And
The Laura Trump thing with the final, putting her in charge of the RNC, I'm like, that is going to implode. I mean, there's just no other way it's not going to implode. And I have to say, from reading your book and watching your podcast this week, that Trump has called her horseface. She was the original horseface.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just like, what?
I couldn't believe it. And they were so mean about her when we would sit in the office. And of course, Eric sometimes was there, or sometimes was there. Ivanka, Donald. I mean, he didn't want Eric to marry Lara. He wanted Eric to marry. I won't even mention the two women's name. One was a Miss Universe winner, and the other one was an employee who he's known the family forever. And that she worked at the company, and she's beautiful. They're both beautiful women. That's who he wanted Eric to marry, because again, it's all about the looks and has nothing about substance. Meanwhile, Eric married somebody with no looks and no substance. So maybe he should have listened to his father for the first time. But if I can, I wanted to go, because you said you're from Oklahoma, a very deep red state, and you had that show on Bravo, Sweet Home Oklahoma. Now, I know a lot of the people that are on or have been on Bravo, right? A lot of the housewives, whether it was from Atlanta, a whole bunch of them from New York. You're not the typical women that we're used to seeing on Bravo. And I know Andy Cohen also. I think he's fantastic. Would you guys consider yourselves political? Would you consider yourselves, I don't know. What would you consider yourself?
Well, we are both very political by nature. We both consume a lot of political news, and we both always had many conversations about politics. Our show on Bravo wasn't the typical like housewife spatting. It was more about friendship the first season, and the second season was centered around my interior design career. So for anybody who went and watched it, it's more funny than it is drama. We're the type of people, I mean, if I was out to dinner and somebody threw a glass of wine, it'd be like, bitch, I've had it. I'm never going to dinner with you again. And that would end it. It wouldn't go on 17 more episodes. Now, I understand that that is a respite for a lot of people to watch, and I don't want to yuck anyone's yum who likes that. Here's the thing. Neither one of us really ever watched those shows. So it was fun, and it allowed for a platform for us to do the podcast, which we enjoy so much more than we did television. Filming a reality show is exhausting. It's not fun. You have to come up with a lot of shit to do. Bravo and our production company Evolution were great to us. We had a wonderful experience, and it teed us up to where there was a little bit of an audience when we launched I've Had It. But this is more of our space where we can really talk about what we want to talk about. And being from a red state, we're literally on the front lines of what Trumpism and what the MAGA movement does. So I hear a lot of people out on the internet talk about, oh, well, there's really no difference between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. And this person might live in California, or they might live in New York. And my point is, yeah, where you live, you have a state government that's protecting you from these policies. Where we live, we have a governor who is adamantly pro-life, a full abortion ban. We have a state government that is full-blown Christian nationalist that is now funding a Catholic school with state funds, with taxpayer dollars, which is obviously unconstitutional. We have a superintendent of school for the state that is putting the 10 Commandments, banning books left and right. And so we live where the politicians that were emboldened and inspired by Donald Trump, where they are now in power, and it is not good. There are signs when you go into doors of restaurants, of movie theaters, your firearm is not allowed in here. Why would they have to put that? Because we have an open carry policy everywhere in the state. And so we see firsthand what happens with Trump policies. We are ranked 49th in education. If you include the District of Columbia, we are ranked the 51st state for women to live in the United States of America. So you can see what Republican, Trumpian supermajorities do by looking at the Bible Belt, because they have everything that they want. Look at what Arizona just did with that Supreme Court.
Yeah, we're gonna get to that too.
It's not good.
No, it's not. Hey, can I ask you, just going back to the interview you guys did with Kamala? First of all, two questions that I want to ask you. First, how did you even make that happen? Right? I mean, I know that I've Had It is popular. Since I started Mea Culpa, thanks to my legitimately incredibly loyal supporters, we have more than 300 million downloads since we've started. All right. I can't get Kamala Harris to come on. That's my first question. I want to know, how did you get her on in the first place? But more importantly, did you guys really talk to her about feet?
I'll take the first one and Pumps can take the second one. Okay, so the first one is that our agency, WME out of New York, coordinated with the campaign, and they called us. And of course, Pumps and I are freaking the fuck out. Like, we can't even imagine that it happened. So it was arranged through our agency and the campaign for that to happen. And I think that we have a very young, liberal, queer audience, and also a lot of women that look like us. We have a really diverse audience as far as age. When we go on tour and we see the kids that are in the audience, they're like 18 to 25. And I'm like, I cannot believe these, they're listening to us. We're such morons. I can't believe it. But we have a really young, diverse audience.
Oh,
And
first
then
of all,
you take the feet.
neither of you two are morons. Let me be clear about that. I love it when people turn around and say, "Oh, they just got lucky." Now, and I'm going to use it as an example. So when I was in Otisville, my table mate was Mike the Situation from Jersey Shore. All right, and no, I'm serious, right? And people underestimate him. They do.
Right.
They completely underestimate. Oh, he's that Jim Tan laundry, whatever. He's an idiot. He's this, he's that. Let me be very clear. No, he's not. And second of all, anybody who gets the success, the whole group of them, from the Snookies to the JWowws to Mike the Situation to Paulie D. I mean, Paulie D is like this big DJ. Mike, married to Lauren, 2 kids now. They're doing great on the show and other things. You cannot be stupid and make it to the top. There's 1,000 of these potential shows. Most of them fail. The ones that don't, you got to give the people that are involved credit. So again, with like your podcast and with your shows, no, you're not. No, you're not. You're much more clever than you think. Now
We work
to the
hard.
feet.
We do work hard.
We
Now
work
to
very
the-
hard on our podcast.
Now to
Go,
the feet.
Pumps.
Let's see. How are those feet? Is there something that you
Okay,
both
so
have
the
with
feet. No, that was taken out of context. Okay, so what happened was we asked her what she'd had it with, had it or hit it, about people taking their shoes off on airplanes and shoes and socks off on airplanes. So like and she was like, "How about their feet in the aisle?" We were just talking about bare feet in general.
I watched it, and she was saying, and then they take it over when they're sitting down next to you, and it's like their feet are like almost in your face. Or the one part I thought you were going to go to is when people put their leg up onto your armrest so that they can stretch out. I mean, talk about had it. Yeah, I mean, I watched the show with Kamala because I happen to be a Kamala Harris fan. So please continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it was just the feet thing. I mean, I don't think anybody is all for feet on airplanes. I just don't. TSA, you walk through TSA, your feet are dirty. Like nobody wants to see anybody else's feet. So she was as equally offended by all that as me. Okay, so Michael, I know it's your podcast, but I have a question I have to ask. I mean, I have been sitting on this.
And Angie, you can ask me anything you like.
Okay, this.
Hey,
of course,
Jen, do you know that Angie and I are going on tour?
Yeah, absolutely. No, okay. So Trump's abortion announcement comes out on Tuesday. The thing that struck me the most is that fucking makeup. Like, I don't understand how that makeup is so bad. I mean, he's wealthy beyond words, regardless of what is, 8 billion, 2 billion, 500 million, whatever. He can afford a makeup artist, a professional makeup artist.
He had one.
Does he have one every morning?
No. So he had one because she was paid for by The Apprentice. I mean, you have to understand, he is incredibly cheap. Not just with everybody else. He's incredibly cheap even with himself. All right. He had a makeup artist when The Apprentice was paying for it. As soon as The Apprentice was over, so was her position. What he uses is, it comes in like a little packet. You rip it off and you put it on. It's almost like a bronzing gauze pad that you rub onto the face, which is why it's uneven. And what he'll do is he'll just do the outline of his face. That's why, then he'll rub it onto the neck. The problem with that stuff is it gets everywhere. Number one, it smells, right? It just does. Number two, it gets everywhere. And he always wears a very crisp white suit shirt. So always around the rim of the shirt, you get that sort of stuff. You get that bronzing material all over the shirt. But yeah, it's like, that's why also, obviously, you see when he has raccoon eyes.
Yeah.
The reason for that is because he doesn't want to get close to his eyes. His eyes are sensitive. And so he doesn't want to get that stuff into his eyes, right? And he does it around, again, the occipital bone. And it's why basically everything else is brown except for around the circle of the eyes, hence the term, raccoon eyes.
I thought he wore those. Remember back in the day where you got in tanning
Yes, those
bed and you
goggles.
had
Yeah.
those goggles. Does he put those on? It looks exactly like he puts those goggles on.
Sometimes, but it's more, he's been doing it for so long that he'll just go around. It's almost like, guys are always fascinated how easy women put lipstick on. You don't even have to look. It's like, how do you know the shape and the outline of your lips as well as you do? And it's always perfect. It's not, except after a while when you get older. I had an aunt whose teeth were always with her lipstick. God bless her. She was the
I do
best.
that.
She was the best. And I was always like one tooth that had the lipstick on it, and you just didn't say anything because we loved her so much. But hey, can we jump into that whole Arizona Supreme Court scenario?
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
so talking about that, they just reinstated an abortion ban that dates back to 1864. Just imagine that shit. It was before the Civil War. It was before Abraham Lincoln's, second run, right, for the presidency. How do average women feel about having their rights stripped and replaced by the Civil War era laws?
It makes me madder than a hornet. It's outrageous. It is unbelievable to me in 2024, we're still talking about controlling a woman's body. My thing is, let's control where sperm goes. Let's get in the testicles. Let's start making laws about that because it takes two to tango. And the Make America Great Again, it's like, so you want to go back pre-Civil War where women have no rights, where people of color have no rights. I mean, it is like, it's happening before our eyes. People are saying it out loud and it is outrageous. And I really feel like, and maybe I'm just an eternal optimist, but I feel like women are going to come out in droves in this election because my daughter has less rights than I had in college.
Let me share something.
Your daughter, in all fairness, like my daughter, has less rights than her grandmother.
Yep.
Right.
In fact, my daughter has less rights than her great-grandmother, who's been deceased now for 15 years.
Let me add something that I think that will be hopeful for your viewers. When Roe was overturned, I was looped in on a group message in Oklahoma City, and it was from some women that I knew that were out of the closet Democrats in this very red state. And we had always seen each other at all the same fundraisers. I'm like, oh, there's Sarah, there's Suzanne, because there wasn't that many of us, right? And it said, hey, everybody meet at Amy's house tomorrow at 2 to discuss what we can do as women in Oklahoma City for the overturning of Roe. I, of course, show up, and I thought it was going to be about 25 people. I go to my friend's house. There are 400 women, white women, whose husbands are in the oil and gas industry, who watch Fox News, who probably have never considered for a second ever voting for a Democrat. They do exactly, their life is just right down the white suburban fairway. My jaw was on the floor at the mobilization of this group of women because I couldn't believe it, because I knew so many of them were so far right and I couldn't believe it. So this was right before our most recent gubernatorial election. So we all mobilized, we had a march, we did all of this stuff. And the Republican governor won a second term. But what's important here is that Oklahoma County, where Oklahoma City is, it turned blue, and it turned really dark blue. And so I think you're going to see in this next election, of course, there are millions of Trump supporters, and it's maddening and saddening and terrifying. But I can just tell you the shock of living in Oklahoma City my whole life and seeing these women whose husbands are hardcore right-wingers standing in this living room saying, I'm not going to stand for this. My daughter's in college, or my daughter's 5 and I don't want her to grow up like this. And I think that women are going to come out in droves. And as sad as this Arizona thing is, I think it's important that these things happen in the lead up to the election to remind the voter this is what they want to do. And women's rights and gay rights and social justice rights are all connected. All of those things are all connected because it's the same group of white Christian nationalists that want to control all of that and consolidate power. And so I hope, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry, continue.
So I hope that people feel motivated and hopeful moving into the next election that this is going to have a huge impact.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on that. You know, when I was at the Trump Organization and when the campaign was going on, I had an opportunity to meet Harold Hamm, as an example, one of your Oklahomans, mega billionaire.
Yes.
In fact, he was one of the big sponsors of this $800,000 per plate Mar-a-Lardo dinner, you know, in honor of trying to get Donald Trump some more money. And I had many conversations with Harold. And I got to tell you, I found him to be insanely interesting and wickedly, wickedly bright. I am always baffled, I guess is the word, why these wealthy, rich individuals, he doesn't need another dollar for the rest of not just his natural life, but his children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and great-great-grandchildren, assuming that somewhere in that lineage that they're not stupid and try to do, to buy an island, right, and to build it from their own, petty cash. Short of that, his family lineage will live for an insanely long time without ever having to even pick up a pencil, right? I don't understand why these people are in the Trump camp. I truly don't. To me, it makes no sense at all because here's a prediction for you. Ready for this one? And I've been pretty right in my predictions. Donald Trump will, if God forbid a million times he becomes president, the first thing that he does after, of course, rewriting the Constitution and jailing a couple of people who he hates, probably myself included.
I was going to say, you're first on the list.
I don't know if I'm first, but I'm definitely up there. One of the things he's going to do is he's going to do like what Mohammed bin Salman did. He's going to round up all the mega billionaires, the people that helped to raise money for him, right? Like the Harold Hamms. He's definitely going for Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Zuckerberg. He's going to go for Bill Gates, all the mega billionaires. And he's going to do what Mohammed bin Salman did. He's going to have them taken to one of his, gaudy clubs where they're going to put him in a room and he's going to make them either sign over their money to him or he's going to do what MBS did to his royal relatives and hang them by their neck until such time as they sign it over. And people say, shut the fuck up. You're always so hyperbolic. You're making shit up. No, I'm not. He's a copycat. He's going to do exactly that because he doesn't care. He believes as president, you are not a president. You are a king. Those aren't my words. Those are his words. And for him, his entire ego, his entire id, his entire super ego is predicated on only one thing: how much money he has, because he believes that money equates to everything.
Yeah. No, I agree. And, I think it's interesting, the Elon Musk situation, because I've heard you say that before and I kind of thought about it. And I was like, Elon Musk is just rah-rah on Donald Trump. Wouldn't you think that if he thought Donald Trump was a serious competitor with Truth Social, that he would not be as rah-rah for him? So it kind of makes me think he kind of knows on some level that he's just bullshit. Do you think that's right or no?
Yeah. I mean, look, Truth Social has under 5 million daily users. How do you make money off of that? You guys have more users per day than they do. I mean, think about that. They did $4.1 million last year in total income with a $59 million expense liability. They're negative $54 million in terms of income to debt, with no business plan. I mean, what do you expect?
Right.
You got that fucking moron Devin Nunes at the helm, right? I mean, talk about a dumb shit. There you go. But they have no business plan. There's no way for them to do like what Twitter or X does, or Facebook or Instagram, where you have like 250 million daily users. There's a reason why Truth Social has already lost more than 50% of its market value in under 2 weeks, because, as you said, it's a bullshit company. Hey, can I ask you this, though? Because since we're talking about women and predicting, obviously, and how they're reacting to the loss of their rights and reproductive rights and so on in November, do you think that'll be enough to end Trump's political career?
I'm an optimist. So I'm going to say yes. I think the power of women that come out to demand their rights, I think it's going to be overwhelming. I think that even though the polls are now excuse me, the polls are now saying that, that Biden's up now in the swing states. I just think women have been underestimated in all of these elections since Roe has been overturned. And it's just been, every state that it's come on the ballot, it's passed overwhelmingly. I really believe that women will be the difference in this election. I really do.
And what about you, Jen?
I can go either way. Because I was so traumatized in 2016, my jaw was on the floor. I never in a million years thought that could happen. So I am reluctant to be too optimistic. What I have seen happen in Oklahoma, particularly with Oklahoma City women, I decorated Harold Hamm's ex-wife's house, who also threw a fundraiser for Hillary back then when they were going through their divorce. And you see this turn in women who are probably going to split ticket with the way their husbands vote. Because at the end of the day, having your rights taken away is traumatizing. And here's something that a lot of people don't talk about. Abortions are a lot more common than what people think. And in this religious state that we live in, if somebody's teenage daughter gets knocked up, there is a immediate desire, of course, to terminate the pregnancy. We always talk about rape, incest, and all of these things. And those, it should be available to whomever for whatever reason, but it's not spoken about a lot for teenage pregnancies and the trajectory that that teenager's life would go on should she be forced to give birth. And I know a lot of conservative evangelical women in states like this whose little darling has gotten pregnant, and it is an immediate abortion. And I think you're going to have women that are splitting the ticket with their husbands. Don't get too excited. I don't think Oklahoma, they will call it the minute the polls close. Right. It will be resoundingly red. I seriously doubt he's going to win by the margins that he won last time. I don't
know. I don't know, Jen. I got to go with Angie on this one. When push comes to shove and you are there by yourself in the voting booth and you need to take your little pen and mark down Joe Biden or Donald Trump, even if you all along have attended these rallies, even if you find this ass clown funny, no matter what, you're sitting there and you're saying to yourself, and as a woman, yeah, this fucking guy is taking away my rights. He's interfering in my decisions for my own reproduction. How much further are we going to allow him to do? And while I'm registered as a Republican, nobody's going to know what I voted, but I cannot support somebody who wants to interfere in what happens in my bedroom. And it doesn't just go to abortion. It goes to DNCs after a miscarriage. They're now fucking with IVF. They're also going after the day after pill, the mifepristone. At what point in time do you wake up and listen to some of the things that some of the other MAGA morons are saying, which is that women shouldn't even be allowed to vote? Women, there's one asshole that even said, I would go so far as saying women shouldn't even drive, thinking that he was being funny, right? No, I'm dead serious. That this is how far that MAGA needs to push upon itself to be the most MAGA maggot of them all. And I think that women and minorities, by the way, and I think the black community, so long, and this is where we're going to need the two of you, so long as we keep them energized on these topics to come out and vote. Because the only way I see Trump winning this election is because of apathy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Because he does have a very motivated base. They love him.
Yeah, it's just not big enough. And with the stupidity towards women, with the stupidity towards minorities. I mean, for God's sakes, Donald thinks that he's popular with the black community because he's been indicted for crimes 4 times. Not only is it racially insensitive, it's fucking stupid. And then worse than that, well, they understand me because I'm in the sneaker business. Really? Why don't you just turn around and say because I'm a drug dealer, right? I mean, he makes these racially charged statements that are not just insulting; they are inaccurate and worse, they're stupid.
Everything he says is a lie. Everything he says is stupid. I mean, I've lost my patience with that a long time ago. But yesterday, he said out loud to cameras, he has done more for the black community than Abraham Lincoln. And I'm just like, he said that with a straight face. Like,
what about his comment about
it.
Nelson Mandela? Throw that one in too.
Oh, yes. Yes. I mean, it's unbelievable, the shit he says. And I'm like, everyone has to know that he's insane, but not everyone does.
I think that there is, I don't know what the percentage is, but I'm always surprised when I go, like I went over to Jesse Waters' YouTube page after he did the 9-minute primetime expose on our podcast, because I was tickled by it. I thought it was hilarious.
We laughed.
And I started reading the YouTube comments, and obviously, it's an echo chamber, but I am so surprised by the numbers of Trump supporters. Yesterday, we filmed with the Good Liars, the comedians that go to the Trump rallies and interview them. And Pumps asked them, so are his crowds getting smaller? And they were like, no, I know you want us to tell you yes, but it is massive. He puts them on in these fields, and as they leave before Trump starts, because they said one speech sounds like all of them, it's a one-hit wonder. So they just want to get the Trump supporters on camera. And he said, as they leave, there are cars still lined up, traffic jams on the highway trying to arrive. While I believe, and I hope that your optimism rings true, and I agree with you, Michael, about the voter apathy, what happened in 2016 has me incredibly traumatized of how fragile democracy is.
Yeah, but let me ask you this question. At these rallies, did you look to see the makeup of the attendees? They look like Klan meetings. And while I will acknowledge that his base, his fan base, is as loyal as they come, remember, assuming that it's 40%, let's get crazy here, and let's say it's 60% of the Republican Party. Let's say 70% of the Republican Party. And let's say that, for argument's sake, that there's 100 million Republican voters, 100 million Democrat voters, and 100 million independent voters. There's 30 million of those voters that will not vote for Donald Trump. They've already said so. That's why you're seeing the change in the poll, which is something I predicted months ago. So he has, say, 70 million voters. That's a lot of fucking people. And that's a lot of people who show up at the fields that you're referring to. But look at the crowd, the makeup. There's no minorities there. It's like,
Of
oh,
course.
it's like a Klan meeting, right? Now, let's assume that half of those people choose not to vote and half end up going and voting for Joe Biden simply as a opposition vote to Donald Trump. Well, there's nobody from the Democratic Party that's going to move over and vote for Trump because they believe in him and what he's saying. So now you got 70 million to say 115 million. Even if you split the independent 50-50, which will never happen because the independent vote is predominantly women and also people of color, minorities. So even if you split it 50-50, Joe Biden wins by at least 6 points. I did the math. And that's how
Okay,
it
let
works.
me ask you this. What do you think? Let's talk about the Electoral College map. Do you think it's the same map as 2020, or do you think Biden expands the map?
Expands.
Leaning into your optimism, expands. Okay, what states do you think he flips?
Oh God, I think there's quite a few. I would have to really go and sit down and play with the map exactly, but I don't believe that in the swing states that it will go for maybe 1 out of the 6 may end up staying and going to Trump. The other 5, I believe, will flip. And again, why will it flip? The women vote. Women are going to save America's democracy. Say whatever you want. I am a firm believer in it. And thank God for that. In fact, there are more women in America. More women actually vote in America than men, believe that or not. And women are really pissed, including evangelical women. They're just not going to come out and say it because, like in any close-knit community, they don't want to be ostracized, especially by the men. But when they're by themselves in that voting booth, they're like, fuck you, Donald, right? You want to play with my reproductive right? Just because you think that you can? I don't think so. But I do want to ask you too, you think that people in, say, like Oklahoma or small towns or these rural communities, do you think that they understand what will happen to this country if Trump is reelected?
No, absolutely not. They absolutely do not understand it. When you get outside of Oklahoma City and you go to rural Oklahoma, it is a totally different world. This is Trump's base. These people are racist, sexist, Confederate flag wavers. Even though Oklahoma was not a part of the Confederacy, they don't give a shit. They don't understand history. For them, Donald Trump hugging an American flag was all he needed to do to prove his patriotism, and that's enough for them. This is very shallow, simple-minded thinking, and there's no question that rural Oklahoma is the same as rural New York. This rural mindset, these two Americas, there's no question that is Trump's base. When you live in an urban area and you live around women that have careers, maybe you have a gay coworker, maybe you work with a Black person, maybe you work with somebody who speaks 4 languages, your mind opens and you're open to critical thinking. But like my husband is a criminal defense attorney, but he's from Hugo, Oklahoma, a town of 5,000 people. I think Trump carried Choctaw County something like 87%. He probably will carry it that same again. It is a Trump dump out in rural America. It is, and I never see Trump flags in Oklahoma, but when my son plays basketball and I have to drive to a small town, it's wild. You see them in people's yards, on their cars. You see exactly what you see on TV at a MAGA rally. You see that in rural America. You don't see it in the city. Even in Oklahoma City, you do not see Trump stuff, but you get to rural America and it is a Trump dump.
Hey, Angie, can I ask you this question? Because I've heard the two of you take on why people reminisce about the good old days. Because men were dicks and they could get away with it. I mean, think about like some of these movies where, hey, toots, and they give the waitress a slap on the ass. Let me tell you something. With women, especially taking, MMA and so on, you slap a woman in the ass, you better expect you're going to get sidekicked right right in the jaw, right? I mean, go slap Ronda Rousey in the ass and see what happens.
Right.
But my question to you is, when I heard you say that, what about women, right? Why are so many MAGA women willing to embrace men being dicks? I don't get it.
I think it's internalized sexism. Like, I think they've grown up with it. For example, my brother and I are both attorneys. My mother will tell me straight in the face, well, ask your brother about that if I have a question about the law. She doesn't mean to be sexist, but she just inherently believes that men have better answers than women. I don't think she's trying to do that. I think that's how she was raised. And I just think it hasn't evolved, particularly in the smaller counties, less educated people. And I think there is this almost like we want to be protected by men. Women think, oh, I need a man to protect me. What they don't realize is sometimes he's the predator in your family. You have to protect yourself. And I think that is evolving over time. But I really think it's just indoctrination from such an early age, generationally, that people don't even know they have it.
Yeah, what a shame. I mean, so let me ask you this then, just in furtherance, because I've heard this from women as well. They don't give a shit that Trump is a sexual predator. I mean, not just women, but people in general. It's like, oh, come on, and then they start questioning, like, or dismissing E. Jean Carroll. Oh, come on, if that was true, whoa, and I'm like, just back the fuck up with that, with that notion. All of a sudden, were you there? They're like, no, were you there? No, but this was tried before a jury, and there's certainly enough information that he was found guilty. But people overlook or dismiss the dozens of women who have come out about being abused by him. You feel it's the same reason as to why, men can just be dicks to women? I mean, obviously it was a different time. Is it acceptable? You see a woman going into a department store, a changing area, and in the old days you can just walk in and have your way with them? I don't understand what has happened to our country, to our society, to our ideology. How about just respect one another? Don't respect them more or less. Just respect them equally.
Well, I can tell you what I think it is regionally here, and it is that Oklahoma is the buckle of the Bible Belt, and evangelical Christianity reigns. I wasn't raised this way. I wasn't raised with any religion at all, but as an observer and being around it all the time, women proudly say in Bible Belt communities, oh, I have to submit to my husband.
Right.
And they think that that's being dutiful to their creator by doing it. And they think that that means that they're being godly. So there is this inherent sexism in their religion where the woman has to defer to the man. In my situation, my husband is a recovering opiate addict who's been to rehab 5 times. Had I submitted and or deferred to him, I would be a drug addict and probably in jail or prison. It's just,
or dead.
It's insanity, but it is this, they believe in earnest that they are submitting. And here's something that I think. I remember when I was growing up, my most religious friends, their fathers were always the biggest philanderers. Mm-hmm. Always. They were screwing the secretary, the church secretary, or whatever. And I think that a lot of women that are Trump supporters, there's this religious base to it where, like Pump says, they believe that men are intellectually superior, but also it's like, oh, they totally hook, line, sinker bought into Melania's. It's just locker room talk. That's just boy stuff because their husbands do it. And abuse, sometimes people attach to it when it's familiar. And so I think for a lot of women, they attach to this stuff because it's familiar. Their fathers, their husbands, they're familiar with this patriarchal type setup. And so when they attach to Trump's overt toxic masculinity, that abusive situation that we see as abuse, they attach to because it's very familiar to them.
Well, let me ask you, because the hour goes by very quick here on Mea Culpa, especially with the two of you. So Jen, Angie, I got this one last question for you.
Okay.
Have you guys listened to the new Beyonce record, Cowboy Carter?
Yes. I've listened to it.
Okay.
Yeah, some of the songs,
Okay.
not front to back.
Okay. Do you like it? And how do you feel about all of the outrage that some country music fans have over Queen Bey's take on the genre? I mean, they're having a total fucking meltdown. Me personally, I'm enjoying watching it, but I don't understand it. I don't understand it.
I think these are the same people that don't understand Kamala Harris. And what do Beyonce and Kamala Harris have in common?
Yep.
Oh, they're women. What's another thing? Oh, they have pigment in their skin. So I think that both of these things, where we started our conversation with you and where we're ending it, those grievances live in the same place. And how fucking entitled are country Western music people to think that they control what Beyonce can put out? Because, and also these are the people that are like, freedom, you know, the American dream. But when somebody does it who doesn't look like them, they sure are butthurt about it.
Same people that are mad about Taylor Swift. I mean, it's fucking ridiculous, dipshit, dumbasses. It makes me insane. Okay, but Michael, I have one more question, and you can't leave, because this is my prediction. I've been saying this. I don't know how many people believe me, but I'm rock solid on this theory. This trial coming up, which maybe you can't answer this. I understand that. You've got Trump that has to be there 4 days a week, let's say 9 to 5. He has to behave. He has to act like a grown-up. He has to exercise self-restraint. I really feel like the implosion is going to be so massive. It's going to be like a volcano eruption. I don't think he can do it. I do not think he can do this.
Remember, Ange, we spoke about this on your podcast when I joined, and I told you that this case, and I've been saying it all along, and people once again, they disputed what I was saying. This is the case that would be first. This is an easy case to prove based upon the documentary evidence and the corroborating testimony, with or without my testimony. And that this is the case that, while it may not be the most offensive of the illegalities that are alleged to have been committed by the former president, that this is the one that's going to take him apart before the election cycle. And I stand by that. Now, do I think he's going to behave? Come on. He's a petulant child. He doesn't, he not only is he not going to behave, he doesn't think that there's any repercussions if he doesn't behave, because so far, all everybody has done is put a gag order on him. Nobody has actually done what you would do if it was a child. You give him a little smack in the ass, you put him in the corner, you stay there till you learn how to behave. That's called discipline, right? Nobody is able to discipline him because there's no repercussions. I'd love to see, he did it yesterday. He put out another post that attacked me, attacked Stormy Daniels, attacked Judge Merchan. I'm waiting to see today whether or not that they act on it. And I'll tell you how I would act on it if I was the judge. I would turn around and I would say, Donald, let me be clear about the gag order. And I think I was clear the first time and the second time that we discussed it. You are now in violation of this gag order. You attacked my daughter. You attacked me. You can't attack the witnesses. I've told that to you before. Grab your toothbrush, grab your hair shit, and report to 500 Pearl Street, the criminal court, because you're spending the night in the tombs downstairs. All right. Let me also give you a secondary warning. Do it again, and you're going to spend 2 days. Do it again, you'll spend 4, and then 8. And you'll spend every day We'll bring you up for the trial, but afterwards, you're not going back to your triplex. You're going downstairs to the pokey until you learn how to fucking act like a human being. That's what I would do. Is that being done?
I completely agree.
Not yet.
No, I completely agree. I mean, part of me is like his supporters would go ultra crazy over that,
cares?
but they'd go ultra.
Right,
they go crazy over everything.
Are not on trial. He is.
Right,
and
no,
there's a certain amount of decorum and respect that he needs to show the process.
Absolutely. You know, and I do divorce cases, so I've gone after people that haven't paid child support or support alimony. And I mean, at 9:00 a.m., they're crying around. They don't have any money. They can't pay for anything, blah, 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 blah. Judge throws them in jail. By fucking noon, they've posted the money. That jail will get your ass quick in the turnaround. And I agree with you. Put his ass in jail. Let him spend 2 or 3 nights there. Bring him up. Let him take his shower in the Tombs and let him report to jail from there. And here's the deal, what he doesn't get, shut the fuck up. Yeah. You're making your